Oh, me? No, I'm just fixing my tie, getting ready for prom. Of course I'm gonna wear this for the entire review. You kidding me? No, it looks silly. Let's take it off. What's going on, you guys? James here with another real review, and today I'm diving into the Netflix exclusive musical comedy, The Prom, directed by Ryan Murphy, who has been very busy on Netflix. It stars the legendary Meryl Streep, Nicole Kidman, Kerry Washington, and Keegan-Michael. Now, yes, if you didn't know, The Prom was a musical that I believe first opened in 2016 and was based on a book by Bob Martin and Chad Beguilin, who wrote the screenplay for this film. So I figured you have the writers for the actual book writing the screenplay for the film. This should be a match made in heaven, but guys, not everything about The Prom is great. Now, before we get into what I liked and what I didn't like about The Prom, if it's your first time here at the channel, guys, welcome to Real James, where I talk about movies and TV early just like this all the time. So if you don't want to miss out on cool content, go ahead and hit the big red button below and subscribe to the channel. Help us get to 3,000 subscribers before the end of 2020. Smash that like button and get loud in the comments as well. And let me know, guys, when you see this, did you like it? Or if you haven't seen it already, are you excited to watch this musical? Now, again, I came in with some confidence. I was curious. The cast on paper is wow, it just jumps off at me. So let's get into what worked, and that is some of our cast just really meshing together very well. And we got to see some of this dazzling chemistry on full display during some of my favorite numbers between Emma, played by Jo Ellen Pellman, and Alyssa, played by Ariana DeBose, at school in the first act. And then there's Angie, played by the wonderful Nicole Kidman. I absolutely love the Zaz number with Emma at Emma's home, and it was just so fun. And honestly, those were my favorite numbers for a reason, because it showcased just how good The Prom could have been. And outside of just the music and of course the acting, there were some really cool bits of production here. There's a lot of vibrant colors. Ryan Murphy is known for that, especially in Ratchet and in Hollywood. There's just a lot of buzz, right? There's reds, there's blues, there's greens, and sometimes it gets a little dull, but for the most part, especially during these numbers, there's a ton of sparkle and lots of sequence. There's sequence blazers, a lot of sequence dresses, and man, sequences in, I guess. But between each number, there were scenes that tried to ground the film, and the best work was really between two duos. The first pair being Meryl Streep and Keegan-Michael. First of all, I love both of them. I think they're both very, very good at what they do, but they end up sparking some sort of romantic interest in one another, and I won't tell you whether it works out or not, but I did love the fact that their conversations seemed to be the most natural. You can just tell they're having fun together, but when it was time to get serious, they sold it very well. And then the second duo that worked for me was between Nicole Kidman and Jo Ellen Pellman. Man, they both gave off such a vibrant energy, and I really wish we got more of Nicole Kidman in this film, because she deserved more screen time. She was just so good. I mean, she's Nicole Kidman. She brings it every time. And then you have our main couple between Emma and Alyssa, and I thought they played their characters pretty well. I felt that the script was giving them maybe a little bit of unnatural dialogue sometimes, but I won't lie to you guys, they at least made up for it in terms of their singing together when they were just performing alongside one another. I bought their chemistry. And then there's the nice overall message here. The film is really focused on Emma's story, and of course she is outcasted by her community, her neighbors, her classmates in Indiana, a place that unfortunately is not as accepting of the LGBTQ plus community as other places in the United States. But what I will say is that this is a movie that if those who are, well, not very inclusive, if they watch this and they stick through it to the end, hopefully their eyes will be open, because there are a lot of important themes at play here, like love, kindness, empathy, and representation. It's all very important, and I'm so glad that the movie really dove into that. There's even a number where one actor, who we will talk about in a little bit, that I didn't like too much, but he was singing about loving thy neighbor. It's a value that Jesus held very close to his heart and was really at the top of his list. So it's very cool just to see how this movie was kind of weaving in some important values and themes, and overall, yes, I thought the message was really sweet. But guys, not everything in The Prom worked, and what I will say is that for as good as the actors were that I mentioned, there were some terrible miscasts here. And at the top of my list is James Corden. Now, in Cats, I didn't find him particularly good because, well, that movie was an abomination. But here, he just doesn't work for me. He plays Barry, a Broadway performer and a gay man who wants to help Emma and finds that he needs to actually work on his past trauma with his own family. So on paper, his subplot should have been really effective. but it starts with James Corden. I just don't think he works in this musical space as well as maybe some people think he does. I didn't like his acting at all, to be honest with you. It was overacting, and he doesn't sell it very well, and that's a problem for me. There was a huge disconnect with his numbers as well. They were very forgettable, and it's sad because I believe James Corden is a super talented guy. He's a great talk show host. I just don't think he works in a lot of the movies that I've seen him in. And it pains me to talk about this next actor because I love her so much, but Kerry Washington was miscast. Guys, I'll say it again. I love Kerry Washington. She's an outstanding actress. She's one of my favorites of all time. But in The Prom, she plays the role of the antagonist here. She is Alyssa's mother, who is leading the PTA, the Parent Teacher Association, that wants to shut down prom and prevent Emma and her girlfriend from attending. I just didn't buy her here as the villain, and the lone musical number that they gave her was less than memorable. She didn't sell it for me, kind of like James Corden didn't sell it. Both of them are clearly different in terms of their acting capability, but unfortunately they both fall in that forgettable category, and sometimes when the movie focuses on them and treads into that direction, guys, it just became something that unfortunately served more as background noise than what I was actually watching. I had to like refocus and rewind 10 seconds and make sure I was really in the moment, but it was just so hard sometimes, and that's honestly the fault of the script, but also of the acting. Now, when it comes to the music and the numbers overall, they were really hit and miss. By the end, I never had a song stuck in my head, and I probably should have. I mean, if this was as effective as I think it wanted to be, I would have really been in the mood to just sing these songs over and over and seek out the original cast recording on Apple Music, but I just had no drive and no motivation to do so. A lot of this has to do with how the film gives time to a lot of characters that I really didn't connect with. Outside of James Corden, there is one actor that I definitely didn't care too much for and kind of tuned out after a while, and that's Trent, played by Andrew Rannells, who had this inflection that was terribly distracting. Now, I think he's a good actor. I just don't think in this performance it was his strongest, and it got to the point where I'm thinking about how he's speaking rather than what he's saying, and that's probably not a good thing. And then there's the final scene. In any musical, guys, that last number is supposed to provide emotion. The viewer is supposed to feel something, whether it be happiness, joy, maybe you're crying, honestly. But here, afterwards, I was fine. I was feeling happy for the characters, but it wasn't an overwhelming feeling of emotion. I didn't really come away thinking, man, that was really good, because the number felt kind of like it was misplaced. It almost feels like it was shot in a way that didn't feel like the final scene, but rather it could have been placed anywhere else in the film, and I would have thought, okay, there's more to come, and instead we got end credits after this. And by the third act, I also felt the length of this musical, and it comes in at over 2 hours. It's not that I was exhausted, and I can handle a film, whether it be short, whether it be long, but I was actually feeling some of the scenes and how they kind of just lingered, especially in the second act. Oh my gosh, there was some fat in the middle that could have been trimmed down, because a lot of the talking in between the numbers was pretty unremarkable, and I didn't want that to be the case. I was hoping, especially with the cast, that we would get some awesome interaction, some funny moments, some emotional moments, which the film does try to play to, but it didn't tug on my heartstrings, and that's kind of a shame because I'm a softie. So overall, you guys, The Prom is one musical where if you throw it up on the weekend, you won't be mad. It's not terrible, it's not great, it just kind of falls in the middle, and I was a little disappointed because the cast on paper is really compelling. I mean, man, but only Nicole Kidman, Meryl Streep, Keegan-Michael and even Joe Ellen Pellman reeled me in. They just didn't keep me for long because of not only the script, but it's just everything surrounding them. There's a lot of fat here that needed to be trimmed down. The stories are not always the most convincing, and that also goes for the acting. I'm looking at you, James Corden. As much as I think he's a vibrant individual, he just doesn't work in this movie. And there are some times where I felt like it was a little too long and scenes just lingered. So for as much pizzazz as it has within numbers, it's everything in between that fell short of the mark. So if I'm going to have to rate this movie, it's a 3-star out of 5. Again, it's not awful, but if you're looking for an incredible musical that really will blow you away, this is not the one for you. And yeah, maybe your expectations are a little high after seeing the cast, but if you bring them down, you might find some joy in the overall message. Alrighty guys, well there you have it. That's my real review of The Prom, debuting exclusively on Netflix December 11th. So when you see it, I want to know what you think. Get loud in the comments. Let's have a conversation about it. And if you haven't already, smash that like button and the big red button right next to it or on the right. Well, you'll see it when you see it. Subscribe to the channel, guys. Get us to 3,000. We're so close, and it's all because of your love and support. So I can't thank you guys enough. And yeah, there's more content to come. A lot more content. It is so busy around here. I gotta get started. Again, thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you at the next screening.